All right, let's do it live on a Tuesday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z.
What's up, brother?
I'm out here living. I had we had basketball practice with third graders last night, and one of my favorite little dudes, little Graham, he came in and he was warming up. It's cold.
It's freezing.
It's frigid. And he was in what I would describe as an Elmer Fudd hat. You would also describe it as a I would say an Eddie
hat.
An Eddie from
Cousin
Christmas
Eddie.
Vacation type hat. And so he had it on, and he's got a quirky little personality. And so it wasn't surprised to see him. If I was to think of someone who would be in it, it would be him. That makes sense. And I said, buddy, you can't practice in that hat. And he kind of looked at me and he goes, and didn't say anything. One of the coaches grabbed it, and I go, buddy, that's an Elmer Fudd hat. And you could tell he looked at me blankly. And I think he thought that I was making fun of that. And I said, oh, no. Elmer Fudd is my guy. I'm a big Elmer Fudd guy.
Well,
I love all those guys. I like Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam. I always like the foils.
well, Yosemite Sam's.
I like the
great.
foils as much as I like the heroes in those.
That's fine.
But the reason I'm telling you this story is to tell you this. He very clearly had no idea who Elmer Fudd was.
Why would he?
Which saddened me, because I think that I could put that series of cartoons up against any series of cartoons ever for just pure entertainment value. So the Bugs Bunny, Tweety Bird, Sylvester, all that, I put that up against anybody. You give me one catalog of cartoons, give me that, you can have anything else.
It's just is there even a thing like the Saturday morning cartoons? Is that even a thing
No,
anymore?
because it's all on demand. Their whole life's
Right.
on demand.
Right.
So you'd have to have a parent who, like, I think it's available maybe on HBO or Max.
See, I think you need to go on Disney and just get them on the Gummy Bears. What a cartoon.
Really, you were a Gummy Bears guy.
Oh, God, it's the best cartoon ever.
That's bold.
I don't even think it's remotely bold.
There's no way you could make that's greater than for a boy, for example, G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
There was the one that was like the
G.I. Joe was unbelievable, dude.
G.I. Joe was good. I was never a huge G.I. Joe guy. I
He-Man.
loved Heathcliff and the Alley Cats. Heathcliff
Oh,
was,
yeah. You and I divert here.
Heathcliff was an electric factory. He was nonstop entertainment.
I'm going to get here's your Mount Rushmore childhood cartoons from your
Okay.
Uncle Bo.
Gummy Bears.
You get me Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, yeah.
You get me He-Man, you get me G.I. Joe, and you get me Warner Brothers, and I'm good.
But when you say Warner Brothers, that's
Bugs.
That's too broad, though.
No, Warner Brothers, WB that's Bugs Bunny.
All right, so
That's I think it's called Merry Melodies or something. Yosemite Sam, Bugs Bunny, that whole operation. You give me those four, those are my four.
Oh, man. All right. So I got Gummy Bears
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I was a huge Heathcliff and the Alley Cats.
I don't know if I've seen Heathcliff and the Alley Cats. I don't know if I know what
Gibby?
that is.
Gibby. I feel Gibby and Heathcliff would be homies.
Absolutely, it was like
my gosh,
poor man.
I
It was
know
a poor man's Garfield.
But he was way cooler than Garfield.
He looks
was-
like, is he like in a beret or is that a backwards hat? This guy?
No.
Is this it?
He's the orange one.
Yeah, this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Heathcliff
Is that
and
a
the Alley
backwards
Cats.
hat or is
I
that
don't know
a
what he's wearing.
I have no recollection of this.
Oh, man. Yeah, Heathcliff was great. I got to tell you.
Was he up to no good?
Oh, yeah. Yes. He was hysterical. Scooby-Doo, I'm with you. I'm with you on Scooby-Doo. I watch a lot of Scooby-Doo. And then the other one, when I'm thinking like from my childhood.
Yeah, I'm not talking about.
So we're
South
talking
Park.
like best 80s cartoons, right? 80s into the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, you can watch Heathcliff on Paramount Plus.
There you go.
How about that?
So
I'm gonna have to give that.
I'm
a
a
run.
little torn. There are a few in here that I really enjoyed. He-Man was great, obviously, by the power of Grayskull. Transformers.
Transformers had a strong run.
Okay. Inspector Gadget.
I remember that, but it wasn't as
Loved
that wasn't as
Inspector
big.
Gadget. Smurfs were also pretty darn solid.
Yeah,
Yes,
Voltron.
I don't remember Voltron.
What? Oh man, Voltron was serious. Voltron was great. And then I love the Jetsons.
Jetsons were fun. As like in the Jetsons would be
Jetsons,
on
Flintstones.
Jetsons and Flintstones are on after school.
Yep.
More than like Saturday morning.
Okay. I mean, those were really, really good. G.I. Joe was great. Thundercats.
Thundercats. Do I know that?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that was usually
Thundercats.
like
Oh.
on Sunday mornings.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And my parents were
Thundercats.
like, "We got to go to church." I'm like, "Not before we watch the Thundercats."
"You
And
gotta
they're
watch
like,
this a little bit."
And then I got to be honest with you, huge DuckTales guy.
This is great.
Yes.
But the task was Mount Rushmore. You've just named 9.
Scrooge. I know.
You got to pick 4.
All right, I'm going to take Heathcliff off the Rushmore.
Give
I
it. He's
like
not
him.
a rule follower.
Hold on. Gummy
Never
Bears.
has been, Bo.
Gummy
Never
Bears.
has been.
Scooby-Doo. Jetsons, Flintstones. Do I get them as like a package?
No, those are 2 separate.
But what about how
universes.
you the
One's
WB?
prehistoric. One's no Merry Melodies. I think is what it. I'm talking the Bugs
Looney
Bunny.
Tunes?
That's it. Looney Tunes.
Merry Melodies.
I think
like
that's
that.
what it is. It says on the thing. There's like a WB and then it says Merry Melodies. Yeah, Looney Tunes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Looney Tunes
Oh,
is good.
Yeah,
that
the
was
Bugs
doing
Bunny
Pinky
world.
in the Brain.
It was
Pinky in the Brain.
It was Bugs.
So good.
All those guys.
What's that
whole
one?
world.
Remember, we ended up looking up that one time, and I found it, but it's like a Japanese one, and it was like battleships with lasers that were in space.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I do remember
was
that.
a great one. All right, I'll go Gummy Bears, Scooby Doo, Jetsons, and then DuckTales. I love DuckTales.
Yeah, little
DuckTales.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
My brother loved them.
Schoolhouse Rock?
Get
Is
out
that-
of here.
is
You're
that-
not allowed to talk
Is that
anymore today.
Schoolhouse Rock? Is that the Fraggles?
Band.
Do you remember
I don't
those
know
guys?
what- I
Fraggle
don't know
Rock?
what the hell that.
Fraggle
Fraggle
Rock.
Rock.
It's
dude.
education,
That was
guys.
more. I don't know.
Yeah,
That was more puppets.
Yeah, that was puppets.
Gabe is banned for the day for that.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Fraggle
like yes,
Rock
that's
is
2 days in a
we
row.
needed
Junior.
stuff that rotted the
Fraggle Rock.
brain.
Yeah, there you go.
Fraggle
Kev.
Rock was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Fraggle Rock was strong.
I gotta find out. We looked this one up before, and I never.
I like the
refound it.
Muppets too, especially as I got older.
Oh, yeah.
I really
Muppets are
enjoyed
great.
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, well,
They
those guys,
needed
they're
their
the
own
best.
show on like HBO, like
Yeah.
really critiquing movies,
They're
and it would have been amazing.
the Muppet movies hold up incredibly well
Amen.
to this day. Like when if I can talk the boys into a Muppet movie,
Star Blazers.
I remember that. Yeah, yeah. There was a time where this is the other thing as we just got out of the Christmas season is like for us. I was trying to explain this to like NBC and Beamsy. I'm like, not at NBC's age, but definitely at Beamsy's. In 5th grade, I still played with toys.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We still had G.I. Joes. I still played Star Wars
I
and
had-
G.I. Joes and Hot Wheels and all that stuff.
I had full on. See, I also was. I love medieval times.
Yeah,
So,
so-
Gummy Bears has. They
Oh, it's got a
take
little
place.
of
They got knights and all of that
yeah,
stuff,
that's
which
true.
is good.
That's true. You did.
So that's one of the reasons that I really, really liked it as well. But
But
yeah,
they would
I had
merchandise.
I had battles, dude.
Yeah.
I had freaking.
And you were definitely doing that still in 5th grade.
Yeah.
There's no question I was doing that in
No
5th,
doubt, no
5th
doubt in
grade.
my mind.
Probably
I was
by
playing-
middle school it
I was
started.
hooping.
Yeah.
I was playing sports. I was that, and maybe like we were getting into maybe Atari at that point. Maybe
Little
a
bit,
A
yeah.
Sega. When did Sega Genesis come out?
There was a Sega Master System.
Well, Sega Master System,
which came
yeah,
first,
which
which was a real. That was the one very disappointing Christmas when we were hopeful that we would get a Nintendo and instead got the Sega Master System because we didn't know what the Sega Master System was.
Bite
Now,
your tongue, dude.
I'm getting there. Eventually, you realize that it was actually pretty good. Shinobi was great. There's a lot of great games on it.
Nope. Action Fighter?
Yeah, they had a lot of great
Action
ones.
Fighter's one of the great games of our time.
But when you what all you know is
Was it-
Mario,
yeah.
and you think you're going to get Mario, and all of a sudden you get in Super Mario, and instead you get a Sega, and you go, "What the hell is this? This is not that. I can't play Tecmo on this."
1986.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your 4th grade, 5th grade.
Yeah.
Well, 86. You're
You're
Bootsy's
I'm 9
age.
years old.
Yeah, you're Bootsy's age. Yeah, and that we haven't gotten toys for the true toys for the kids in years.
I still had Atari. I was playing Chopper Command
Of course.
or
Chopper
Rampage.
All that stuff's in the Tesla, in the game stuff.
Really?
All those games are in there.
There was a great Empire Strikes Back Atari game where you got to be the snow speeder. You had
Yeah.
to take out the AT-ATs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was good stuff.
it was very good.
Yeah, it was good.
All right,
Good, it was good.
Anyway, so that it was. I was like, well, yeah, he wouldn't. There would be no reference of that.
No.
Yeah, for the.
By the way, I have a question for you
Go ahead.
that I asked earlier. Is this week's episode of Hard Knocks, is tonight's the finale? Or are they going to carry the Ravens
I would love to see one more week.
into the playoffs?
I'd love to see Baltimore and Pittsburgh prepare for this week.
Yeah,
and
I'd
that
love to
game
watch
play
that.
out. I'd love to see that. I did not watch last week's. I was up to date up until the one last Tuesday.
Well, are you watching it because for the show, or would you like me to give you the Browns recap of last week's episode?
No, I'm good. I think if I don't watch it on a Tuesday, then at that point I'm good.
Well, can I just tell you?
I would love for you to. I'd love nothing more.
So the Browns were in it for a total of maybe 45 seconds.
Oh, really?
There was Jameis in the quarterback room in Christmas pajamas that they made a comment about, scene. And there was Wyatt and Carly at home with their kids doing Christmas for less than a minute.
Believe today is the last episode.
That was it.
For Hard
That's
Knocks.
it.
As if we did not play the Miami Dolphins. We did not prepare to play the Miami Dolphins. The game did not happen, did not take place. No record of it at all. That was our contribution.
I'm asking.
And
I
fair.
don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. Do you think that was the choice of the producers, or perhaps was there anything from our organization that said, "Hey, man, honestly, we're good"?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I wonder.
But you had a good,
because the others were all playing for a lot.
The
There's a lot going
Ravens
on.
beat Houston on Christmas. That was the first half.
drum.
And then it was the big Denver-Cincy game
Yeah.
that took
What did they do with Pittsburgh? Were they backseated too?
Pittsburgh. No, they did in Pittsburgh, Kansas City. So they did the two. Those games got a lot. And then the final 20 minutes was all Bengals, Denver.
Yeah.
And we had like nothing. But I'm curious because G-Man, I think you were the one who said that Hard Knocks was at Andrew Berry's presser.
Okay.
So they are airing an episode. We did play the Ravens this week.
Sure.
But we also know that from Andrew Berry's presser that there was a significant discovery regarding Deshaun Watson that occurred just prior to that presser.
So is there video
So
evidence
is
of that
that-
conversation, perhaps,
Just anything about
or
it.
anything about it? Very good question.
We'll find out tonight at 9.
We will.
I mean,
Yeah,
it would seem to me
Yeah.
that if they were here, now you could run into HIPAA stuff, so maybe there isn't anything about it. But it would seem that there would be at least that. There was no bigger story coming out of Andrew Berry's press conference than that.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson has suffered a setback in his
Yeah.
recovery from his Achilles. So if that happened while they are here, and if they were here at his presser, it would stand to reason they were here prior to his presser.
Yeah.
That you wonder
we
if
would
there's
see some of
any behind anything about that situation.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So this is it, though. We have confirmed that. It's this episode, and then they're done. Okay.
I think they should. If you run a division and
Run
you
it.
get the division into the playoffs, why wouldn't you follow them through? Especially when, wouldn't you know, it's a division game.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe just the only thing I can think. I'm sure HBO would want to. My guess is the teams said that's it. That's all you're getting. We're done. I don't know if Baltimore and Pittsburgh would want them hanging around for a playoff game.
I even think it would be fascinating to see how, for example, we handle our exit interviews. How did the Bengals handle their exit interviews? Will there be
my
anything
gosh.
on the will you get a peek into the changes that were made, right?
Yes. I mean,
Us
think about
and Anarumo in Cincinnati.
Oh, man, the Anarumo conversation had to be crazy because the reporting coming out of there is like Burrow and the defensive guys, like Logan Wilson, those guys are like, do not do this.
Right. So is that going to – I mean, this one to me almost should be like 2 hours.
This one would have the potential to be what Hard Knocks can be at its best when they have those roster decisions, but those are with fringe guys. These are conversations with the biggest stars in the game about why a season was derailed and what we need to do to fix it. That is the conversation you want to see. Like Burrow having a conversation with power structure down there. I mean, the conversation that Miles has had here, if you could get enlightened on those things, I mean, that's –
I don't think that would ever pass either.
Of course it wouldn't,
Gatekeepers,
but that's
and justifiably so.
I get it, but like at the same
that
time,
would
like
be- right.
if you could get some of that exit stuff, that would be unbelievable to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. By the way,
Yeah.
you have two tremendous logos on today. What are we doing here?
It's this. It's same. I didn't intend to. I didn't have a hat. I put this on this morning, and then my hair is in this. It's long, and it's sometimes it's a good hair day. Sometimes it needs to be cut.
I got the fresh helmet.
And I know, God, I don't have the punum for that.
You're very handsome, man.
Not near handsome enough to pull that off. So I gotta. Anyway, I can't get a hold of my haircut lady, and so like I'm in
no.
between. I can't get it. I don't know what to do. So I got some things I got to sort out. So anyway, grabbed this hat was in the car, and so I threw it on. This is all from this is the alternate logo to the primary logo. Same place.
Columbus,
No,
Ohio, somewhere.
Sharon.
Oh, that's Sharon.
Yeah, they got this one
Very
right.
nice.
That's very
that's a
strong.
great one.
Yeah.
Why do they have? What's the?
I don't know. I guess there's
who
some.
needs it?
I don't know. I guess there's some sort of anniversary they did or something, and so they like this bird.
Is a blue jay to my eye?
To mine too. I don't know.
Could be a stellar jay with the black tail.
Maybe. You said it, pal. But
know if they're in
this one's
Ohio,
so
though.
great. I don't know why you would. But
No,
as it
that
was
looks like that
explained
could
to
be in
me-
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, as it was explained to me, the other thing that's nice about this, look at the little blood on the shield, just little blood droplets.
No, stellar jay's got more of a. Let me see that. Let me see that bird again.
There you go.
No, stellar jay's more of a black head. They have those. I think they're in California.
I like when the Blue Jays come around, but they're pretty violent towards the other birds. Pretty aggressive.
That's why
Like-
they're in Toronto.
Yeah, they have that plumage, and I think it gives them a lot of juice.
Yeah.
All right, a couple other things we didn't get to yesterday in regard to Andrew Berry's press conference. Let's start with, we mentioned Miles. Here is AB on Miles' reaction to the blueprint presented to him.
Let me say, in terms of Miles, my anticipation expectation is that he'll have a direct ticket from Cleveland to Canton at the end of this year and expect him to be here, and retire at Brown, quite frankly.
I like that line. Direct ticket, direct connection. Canton to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
He's going to be, I mean, he said yesterday, one of the big things you're talking about from yesterday's press conference was, and man, I can't believe it was only yesterday. Part of it was the Deshaun piece. And then the other part was, this isn't a teardown. We are going to keep our core intact.
The number 2 pick in the draft allows for a lifeboat and a way to flip really quickly
Of course.
to competitiveness.
Ask the Commanders.
Yeah.
Just this year.
It's very easy.
Now, what's interesting, what's made this even a little bit more potentially unpredictable, by the way, I have it on authority. This is like Jimmy Bang Bang got credit for Bo Nix because he said that ahead of time. So last night, Raw made its Netflix debut, which was actually awesome show.
Let's
Big
table
show.
that because I want to ask you about
Okay.
that in a second. Because I think there's a very fascinating sports media stuff happening. Go ahead.
Right at that time. S was over.
Oh, you had him in his person?
Yeah. He's, as of now,
Shot out of a cannon.
he'll be attending the Natty when the Buckeyes get there.
He's not going this week, though, right?
Not this week.
Yeah.
He's only saving himself for the big. He said could even potentially be going with the boys. So we'll see how that.
There we go. Let's
how
go.
that works out for him. But he had said he had it on good authority
Yeah.
that Drew Aller is going to enter the draft. This is for Mets. I'm just. Don't.
I
shoot
don't know
the
what his
messenger.
connections are to the Penn State program. Are those close or people in Medina? I don't know. Here's what I would say. If I were Drew Aller, I would do the exact same thing that Cardale Jones should have done, which is when you have player momentum, strike baby.
While the iron is hot.
Strike. And the reality is that in this draft where Shador and Cam have kind of separated and then it's a decent golf to like Milroe and then the darlings from a year ago, which were Ewers and Carson Beck and all those guys, there's an opportunity for you to go really high in this draft. And if that's the case, you need to go. The only thing that's interesting with those college guys now is, and Quinn Ewers is going to be a great example of this, Quinn Ewers, for whatever reason, did not have the year everybody thought that he would have. And his arm doesn't look the way that it used to a couple of years ago. I don't know what happened. I'm hoping to get to the bottom of it at some point this week down south. But Quinn Ewers would be worth more staying in college and getting $4 or $5 million in NIL somewhere than he would as a third-round pick, fourth-round pick in the NFL.
Yes.
So,
But if you're going to go, if
you're first round, and right now everyone sees Drew. I want to see how he plays against Notre Dame. He is getting a lot of juice based on how he played against SMU and Boise State.
Well,
and the talent did not equate in those two games.
you're starting to get right with him, though. You're starting to get a lot of the this is the number one prospect. This is
because of the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Nobody was talking about that going into the Big Ten championship game. It's very similar.
There was
very similar to what happened with Cardale, although Drew has a 2-year starter at Penn State and all of that.
the only time I would say that I really heard about him before in a big way before the last couple of weeks was, I think we were talking about, they played in prime time. And he made some crazy throw, and they're like, that is the signature throw.
I think that was the
Drew
Oregon game again in the Big Ten championship. So he's had 3 good games in a row.
Yep.
Before that, before the Big Ten championship
that's
game
what it was,
lost
the
to
Big Ten
Oregon,
champ, yep.
there was no conversation around him. And in fact, when he said he's coming back, it was like, well, yeah, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thought.
Yeah.
So a lot's changed in a month, but if I were him and this continues to have positive momentum,
Go.
I reconsider and I'm gone.
Go.
All right, here's AB. This one on Nick Chubb and his future with the organization.
I want to start by saying I think everybody in this room knows how much respect that we have for Nick and how much appreciation we have for not just like his exploits on the field, but who he is in the locker room and who he is as a person. It's always a challenging situation when one of your cornerstone players, their contract is up. That's probably maybe a little bit the different situation this year relative to last, where there is maybe perhaps a little bit less control on the club side with it. Those are all decisions that we do have to work through in the next several weeks. We love Nick. He's going to be a Ring of Honor player for us, and we know that. In terms of the short term, that's something that, quite honestly, we just have to work through over the next several weeks.
There's a tone to that.
An interesting tone to that.
Yeah.
To be fair, and not in necessarily a bad way, but it is. I think it's an interesting tone. I don't know exactly how to read that. I think everybody is of the same mindset in this building, outside of this building, and in the case of the player himself, that everybody wants to see Nick Chubb finish his career as a Cleveland Brown. And I would have to think that given the injury he was sustained a year ago, given the fact that he then did not finish this season with an injury and clearly was maybe getting back in the direction of the player he used to be, but I always thought it was a 2-year injury anyway.
Yeah, same.
So I'm not surprised that he wasn't, oh man, he looks just like the Nick of old. I think if he is going to do that, it's going to be this year. He's probably not going to have as robust a market as Nick Chubb you would expect to have. And so I would have to think that there's got to be a number from the Brown side and from Nick Chubb's side that makes sense. And you come in and you say, okay, best case scenario, Nick Chubb is back to being Nick Chubb, and you make an incentive-laden contract that if he's Nick Chubb again, he profits from that greatly, and we all do. And then probably the other side of the spectrum where he's not that guy again, but I believe in him. I have no doubt he's going to do everything in his power to be that guy. We've seen him come back from a catastrophic injury before, as that maybe he's what Kareem Hunt was to you 2 years ago, which is still an incredibly valuable piece. Jerome Ford showed that I think he can be certainly part of a rotation or a tandem and be effective in that role. The question is how big does Nick Chubb's role get to be, need to be, or should be based on where he is. If he's Nick Chubb again, he's Nick Chubb.
Away we go, yeah.
Away we go. Now, if he's not, I still think there's an incredibly valuable role for him.
Yeah, and I think the other factor of that is we do have another injury. Now, this one isn't catastrophic, but now we have another injury that what does that look like whenever he gets back to it? So
Sure.
This isn't scores. I think that the organization, if there's a path to keep Nick Chubb a Cleveland Brown, that path will be explored and everything will be done to make sure that is the case.
Yep.
So that's kind of the way that I would read that one.
It was not, though, just listening to it, it did not necessarily feel as definitive as perhaps things that we have heard
Agreed.
in the past.
We also have no idea Nick's state of mind.
Correct.
I mean, a full year rehab and then lose another season to injury after not getting back to where you wanted to get to. So we have no idea where his head's at with any of this. AB also addressed the tackle situation. Here were his thoughts on that.
Yeah, so maybe to start with Jed, it's probably like all of our players with expiring deals where, we've got to work through all of that in the next several weeks. With Dwan, we did feel like he was actually, hitting his stride before he got injured, middle of the year. It is funny because Kevin was like, hey, let's just kick him over to left tackle during one of the practice weeks. And then we had the injury, it was like, oh, well, I guess he's got to play the next week. It ended up being prescient if you speak. And how that spot looks going into 2025, it's probably too early to tell. But we did feel like it was good to get him some game experience at that position.
I'm a big Dwan Jones fan.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy.
He's got to stay healthy. I think certainly has flashed the potential to be a very, very good tackle. I think that you have to go into next season with him starting somewhere in pencil, but you have also got to be prepared for, because he hasn't been able to finish either of his first 2 seasons. And I think he's somebody, they talked about those articles where how much he bonded with Vrabel and how great that was. And he really started playing very well at the end. So that, to me, is going to be very important to having when we pick a new offensive line coach, somebody that is very good and somebody that I think will be very good with Dwan, because that is an unbelievable piece of clay, incredible talent, great kid.
Yeah.
Everything that you want, and you're going to have to stay on him. You're going to have to keep him, he's going to have to work hard, and I know he will.
Yeah.
But Dwan Jones has unlimited potential, and that could be a huge saving grace for this organization. We've got to figure out how to keep him on the field, and as long as he stays on the field, I think he's going to be very, very good.
All right, a couple other things. Let's do the Netflix conversation now, because the NFL dabbled in Netflix at Christmas. It worked. This was a big experiment last night with Raw. One thing that's cool about this Netflix model is, and I guess I could do it the other way too. I could have just DVR'd it, but I'll be able to. You said recommend me watch it with the boys, so I think we'll watch it tonight.
Yep.
And give it a watch. Just find it on Netflix and watch it. But of course, there's also the live element of it that they got to be able to land the plane on. You experienced it. How'd it go?
It's perfect.
Good.
And there's something about their cameras, and I noticed that when I was watching the football, they're unbelievable. They had a drone inside the Intuit Dome that would fly down from like the top down into the ring. It just looked visually, it was stunning. That place looks like the most incredible arena in the world.
Yeah.
And it was a good show. It was interesting, though. I thought The Rock came back and played it very straight, like good guy Rock. When the last time we saw him, he was the final boss, and
Yeah.
he really didn't get involved in a storyline, which is weird. I thought for sure he was going to, and that they set up a thing where everybody watching it thought he would, but he did not.
I thought he would too.
I thought he was for sure going to at the end, the way
Do you
he
think he
lingered in
wants
the
to?
ring. I think he's not wrestling at WrestleMania for whatever reason. I think if he was wrestling at WrestleMania, they would have had him. You'll watch it and you'll see. He had a chance to go at Roman Reigns and did not, and in a very wrestling way where it was.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect. So I don't know. He was very much not in a. He was just more kind of talking about the partnership with Netflix and TKO, and he's a big wig there, and that part of it was interesting. But good show. It was much more like watching a pay-per-view. They had all the celebrities from LA out there. They were showing all of them in the crowd. It was very well done from a production standpoint. Perfect.
Good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. More and more. I mean, obviously the Tyson thing didn't work out great, but it seems like every other bar that they've tried to go over, they've hurdled and passed. And
Seems like they learned something from that, because the NFL, I'm curious to see what the ratings for this are when it's all
For
said
Raw?
and done.
Or for NFL?
For Raw.
Yeah.
The NFL games on there, they said at one point like a third of the subscribers were.
I don't
But it
ever know
doesn't-
what
how
that
do you
means.
know what that
like
means?
you open the app and auto plays. Like, does that?
Sure.
I don't even know what that means.
I can't say that I do either. I know a lot of people are, and it's cool that for the first time ever, you think about it, it's Netflix. No matter where you were in the world, if you had Netflix, you could watch it.
Yeah.
At the same time, live as anybody else anywhere else.
Allows for the true global nature of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So there was some in the commentary. They're kind of explaining things as if though they felt like there were probably a lot of people watching it for the very first time.
Okay.
Which is good. They're explaining Dominic Mysterio's Rey Mysterio's kid. Like
Anybody? We know.
everybody, but I
Maybe.
think they expected a lot of people who were watching for the very, very first time. But yeah, it was good. You had some big matches, some big moments. You had a return of Hulk Hogan that I don't think went the way Hulk Hogan was expecting it to go. I don't know if you
So
saw that.
I saw people on social like,
dude,
where does that come from?
booed out of the building.
Why?
He's had some things in his past that I think are.
Oh,
WWE cut ties with him because of some things that he had done.
Oh, okay.
That
Also, their political backings and stuff.
there's that could have played a role. I think maybe, but there are. I don't think like all of L.A. is Southern California is very different than if it was in like San Francisco.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people like on social that were there, like kind of talking about it and showing videos and why they were booing him and stuff. And there was a lot of behind that kind of concept.
Some of that, and I think there's some of the tapes that came out about him years ago, or a few years ago, that was why WWE cut ties, where he made some very poor judgment comments about
He's got to be
groups.
in his 70s, doesn't he?
He can't walk. I mean, he didn't go to the ring. He just
came out and then.
But I mean, and he's like talking about how the greatest tag team partner he's ever had are you, the fans, and I mean, he's getting booed out of it was nuts. It was surreal. It was surreal to watch it. Like Hulkamania is dead. It's over.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff from our youth that way, the things that were pillars, not so great.
This is the first time he's ever gotten a reaction like this when he was not like trying to be the bad guy.
Right.
He was coming out trying to be as good as can be and not. It was good, though. The one thing that's crazy about it being on Netflix now is think about this, and Triple H has alluded to it. The show's going to be as long as the show needs to be.
Absolutely.
Like if we need 5 more minutes, take 5 more minutes. If we need 10 more minutes, take 10. If we only have 90 minutes of good stuff this week.
That's it.
We're only going to do 90 minutes this week.
They're not required to fill a certain amount of time. That's got to be freeing.
Yeah, I would think so.
A quick shout out to the great Montana State Bobcats. Dug a 21-3 hole last night and then rallied. I thought they had a chance. There was a drive in the fourth quarter where they were down 3 and they went 3 and out, and then North Dakota State won it. But North Dakota State, I mean, it's 10 national champions for them at 1AA, and they've eliminated Montana State twice in the final game last year in the playoffs, so they're the thorn in our side, as it were. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. We've got one thought around every NFL game from Week 18 coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For nearly a century, the Rumpke family operated one of the nation's largest waste and recycling companies, providing top-level services to residential and commercial customers. To learn how they help you meet your sustainability goals, visit Rumpke.com to learn more. Time for one thought around every NFL game over Week 18, the final weekend of the league. Hello, Gibby.
Some of these we're just going to go rapid fire
You bet,
because they
baby.
sucked.
They did, a lot of them.
But otherwise, one thought from every game in Week 18 of the National Football League. Saturday night, Bengals 19, Squealers 17. Zagura, one thought, go.
Steelers defense in some ways in this game was stupefying. They would put Chase out there on Kobe Trice, not double him. Like the Belichick thing, it made sense to me. You would put your number one on their number two, which they did with Porter and Higgins before he got hurt, but then you would double the other side completely.
Yeah.
They did not do that, and Jamar Chase was able to have a very, very good game, but at the same token, they held them to 4 field goals off of the foot of Cade York, and so did a good job there. Steelers, to me, offensively, just don't seem like they've got anything, and Russ, the bloom is off the Russ rose, unfortunately.
I think it's stupefying that Pittsburgh, for the last month, has just not used Justin Fields. When they started with Russ, they would bring him in for some change of pace stuff. And now, without...
And in the red zone.
And without Pickens, consistently, it's a mess.
He was a mess in this game.
He was a mess in this game. So...
Why don't they play Mike Williams more?
I don't know. I think he's better than they play him to. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Mike Williams, in the last 5 games, has had 12 targets. He's caught 8 for 100 yards with them. But they don't play him.
No, I know. I don't.
They don't play him.
There was something with Fields. Do you remember he got hurt?
An ankle.
In practice when he was trying to be... Was he trying to be Lamar?
Maybe.
I don't know if that's what's holding him back, but yeah, it's stupefying that they are not playing Justin Fields a little bit and trying to change some things up. They've lost 4 in a row going into the playoffs. From Sunday's action, the feisty Carolina Panthers finished the season on a 4-3 record. They beat the Falcons 44-38 in overtime. Bo Bishop, one thought.
Really happy for the folks in that area. For the folks who root for that team and for the idea that they didn't bail on Bryce Young and he flipped it. And he went from somebody who it looked like was broken at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to give them a whole lot of credit for it because they said if Dalton doesn't get hurt, they probably just stick with him. But the reality is that kid flipped it, and now they have a viable future. So that's a good job.
These are 2 teams that I think have very viable futures because they've got good young quarterbacks. And Bryce Young's probably younger than Michael Penix, isn't he? Despite being in the league for 2 years.
Yeah, because he didn't redshirt. He played 3 years at Bama. Penix was a 5+ year player, maybe 6.
Yeah, Bryce Young. I was reading something from the great Cleve TA the other day. Maybe it was today, where Drew Brees. It took him a while to adjust to NFL pockets. It took him about 30 games or so. And if you look at Bryce Young, what he's been able to do now, he's really started to figure it out. So perhaps that's something he's playing confidently. He's got his swagger back. He's going to be fun to watch, and Atlanta's fun to watch. Drake London is so good. I don't understand how Kyle Pitts is he's the biggest invisible person I've ever seen.
I know.
And then Bijan is good. So they've got a good triplets in Penix, Bijan, and Drake London to build around. Carolina still needs. They tried. Legit is their first round pick this year. Thielen's still hanging on, playing well. Jalen Coker's playing well. Jatavian Sanders, their tight end, has made some plays for them. But they're a team I think that could even still
6. They could get your boy.
They could get McMillan. McMillan would be so good for them.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
I still think the Falcons are gutless until they maybe get a new coach.
I mean, this is a crazy. Had the Saints upset Tampa, which was certainly in play for the majority of the day, the fact that the Falcons were that they did lose this game.
I think the chronologically, they knew that the Bucs
going
won.
into overtime. They knew
into overtime.
Into overtime. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't know when they got beaten 14. They gave up a 14-0 in the third quarter.
Yeah. No, they did not.
Not. I mean, it was. And by the way, they had to score late to get it into the fourth quarter.
I think Belichick could have coached them.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Next.
Belichick coaches them. Maybe they win the week before. because they managed the clock properly at the end. They get a real field goal attempt, and maybe the game didn't even matter.
And maybe they don't draft Penix. Maybe they just go with Cousins and they do something else with that pick, and who knows?
Commies 23, Cowboys 19. Nathan Zegura.
This is not a serious game. This was not a serious game. Next.
All right. I just want to say this. There is a Paramount Plus show called Landman that Billy Bob Thornton is, which is endlessly entertaining.
We're starting it soon.
I know where you
It's
are going.
endlessly entertaining.
It's awesome.
Pure fun and joy and all of it.
And
Jarrah's scene that he did, and I'm saying this without an ounce of hyperbole, is as fine a acted scene from a non-actor that you will ever see.
He's rave reviews. They're saying give him an Emmy.
Murders it.
Yes.
And he might just win a damn Emmy for it. It's crazy. I had no idea that he was even capable of it. How would he be? He was like De Niro.
Because he's Jerry Jones.
Calm,
It's crazy how good.
Deliver the lines
even
well.
emotional.
Yes.
Authentic. It was crazy.
He was really good. That show
Crazy.
is
That show's fun.
a
My
lot of
guess
fun.
is he has put himself in some predicaments over the course of his life that required some tremendous acting and
I
gravitas
think that's true,
to
but
get
to
out
be
of
able,
them.
he's in a room with an Academy Award winner and an Emmy Award winner.
Yeah.
It's John Hamm and Billy Bomb, and he steals it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What was his character, or was he
He
himself?
plays himself.
Yeah.
Well,
It's really good.
Bears 24, Packers 22, Bo Bishop.
Christian Watson goes down. Jordan Love gets hurt in the game. What a mess for Green Bay. They were 10-point favorites in this game. But that's beside the point. It's the injury stuff that's just brutal.
I'm going to tell you something right now. Let me look something up real quick. A guy that I'm interested in, that I'm, would be not even afraid to look at here. So he's still on his rookie deal. So you wouldn't get him a chance to get him until 26 because they must have traded for him. Malik Willis. Malik Willis played real well.
He did earlier when Love was
for
hurt too.
Green Bay this year, really well. And to me, I find that to be very interesting. Big guy, big arm, knows a system at least that has its roots in our system. LaFleur, Shanahan, all of that. It's the same type of thing. This year, 75% completions, 10 yards an attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 125 rating, and obviously he can do some things with his legs. He had 73 and a touchdown against Tennessee earlier in this year when he started. He intrigues me. Size, arm.
Only thing I would say is our guy is buddies with Arthur Smith, and wasn't he the offensive coordinator there when they drafted Willis?
He was, but
Tennessee.
sometimes it takes.
Did not like him much.
Sometimes it takes time and growth and development, and I would maybe say that's why LaFleur is a head coach and not
Valid.
Texans 23, Titans 14. Titans, congratulations. You have the number 1 pick.
and they don't have a GM. They just fired their
pretty
GM
wild.
today.
Who hired Callahan?
Correct.
What a mess. They could have just kept Mike.
Yeah.
They went from number 1 in the AFC to 2 years later number 1 pick in the draft. Not great. They think they're taking quarterback number 1 clearly, obviously. Like they played Will Levis to make sure they lost.
Yes.
Like we're making sure we're picking 1.
And lose they did.
By the way, Arthur Smith, per the G-Man, was in Atlanta when
You sure,
Tennessee.
G-Man? He was already there by the time that Willis was
Malik
in
Willis.
Tennessee. Okay.
Feels possible.
It's in play. I knew it was right on.
How
the
many
edge
years
of
was
it?
it? If he was in Atlanta for 2 years, then yeah.
This
And he had
this
to be.
was
He
Willis's
wasn't one and
third
done.
year?
This is Willis's 3rd year.
Yeah, so Willis was drafted
Probably right after Arthur
86th
Smith.
overall in 2022.
Yeah.
Arthur
He's the same
Smith's
age as
first
Pickett.
year in Atlanta was 2021.
Okay.
Houston did. You want to play your stars and get him a feel-good drive? Stroud goes 6 for 6 for 50 and a touchdown. Mixon runs it nicely. They get a touchdown to Nico Collins, and then he's out. That's it. That's all you had to do. See you, goodbye. And Tennessee, they did this properly. They actually understood the assignment, and they did it.
Colts 26, Jaguars 23 in overtime.
I would love if I'm Vrabel, if I'm anybody, if I'm an offensive coach that is good, this is where I want to be. I want to be right here. Not only do you have Brian Thomas, Kirk will be back healthy. Here's the other thing. That second-round pick you made this year, Brenton Strange from Penn State, is good. And you have Evan
Two
Ingram.
backs,
You can
you
go
got
two
Ingram.
backs, two tight ends,
Yeah.
couple of wide receivers. And
Another good pick
Thomas
this year.
is
Thomas is a stud. Like, this feels like if old boy up in Detroit's going to go, this is where you
Ben
go.
Johnson.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man, that would be great.
Very winnable division.
Very winnable division.
Yeah, three of the four teams they've fired people in the last 2 days.
How about Jonathan Taylor? They're like, I don't know if he had incentives or what it was, but to give the guy 34 carries in a season finale is wild.
Pretty much, yeah.
Patriots 23,
What a mess
Bills
that is.
16.
Like, they just picked Anthony Richardson, and then they obviously realize he can't play,
Yeah.
and it's 2 years later.
How about
this is the most – the Patriots went from 1 to 4.
The Patriot way.
Yeah, they went from 1 to 4. The story this week that Bob Kraft had no input on how they played in the final week. The other thing, the sliding doors of them beating Cincinnati week 1, if that just would have went the way it was supposed to, Cincinnati be in and they would have had the number 1 pick.
Can somebody explain to me, because I don't know the answer to this, but can somebody explain to me, we heard all week Drake May is starting, we're playing to win, and Drake May threw one pass, got sacked, handed it off once, and then didn't play anymore.
No. And then Joe Milton,
Played great.
formerly of Michigan and Tennessee, came in and played great.
When was he picked?
His whole thing was always accuracy. He's a big kid. He can throw it. He's like Uncle Rico. He can throw it over a mountain range.
He was here. I remember he was here. I met him.
Did you? Big kid.
A visit maybe. Yeah, he was a 6th-round
Yeah.
pick in this year's draft. Big kid, 6'5", 250.
Huge arm.
He played great in this game.
He did.
22 of 29. I mean, they played to win the game.
Yeah. Wild.
Eagles 20, G-Men 13.
I mean, you
Anybody have
can't beat them.
anything
By the way,
about
are we
this?
hearing, like, is Jalen Hurts not
Still in
lock to
protocols
play?
of last
Yeah,
night.
he's so. That's a major red flag there, buddy, for them. I mean, that's crazy. He's like still being in protocols.
Well, that's what I was saying
Couple of
yesterday.
weeks.
When you think about the Tampa scenario, Green Bay beats them, which if they don't have Jalen Hurts is beyond feasible.
Yeah.
Is he practicing while in
I
the
haven't looked into
protocols?
it, I'll be honest with you.
I haven't seen anything.
They play what, Sunday?
Sunday
They're
at
Sunday,
4:30.
4:30.
All right, so their first practice will be tomorrow. Malik Neighbors, special. Giants. It's unfathomable to me they did what they did against Indy to knock them out of the playoffs.
It's unfathomable to me that Mara went up yesterday and said,
We're running
I'm
it back.
running out of patience, but we're running it back.
Not
What are we
great.
doing?
It's a shocker. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a shocker.
And now they're going to have to give up stuff to get a quarterback because they have to go up and get one,
Or they're not going to get
or
one.
they're not going to get one. And then what do they have? Like, you're going to run back Drew Lock?
I mean, you can find somebody who can throw the football around. Like, heck, if they're serious about being fun and having some ups and downs, but not necessarily trying to turn it all around in 1 year, Jameis would be great there.
Oh, he'd
He'll
sling
keep
it.
Malik Neighbors very happy.
Very happy, yeah.
You'd score.
120 receptions, 1,850 yards, 13
Yeah.
touchdowns.
Yes. Yeah.
Tampa Bay 27, Saints 19. Bo Bishop, one thought.
The fact that this game was much closer than 27-19 would lead you to
Yes.
believe Saints led much of this game. And the idea for all that was at stake for Tampa Bay and Atlanta, that's the way they came out, is hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah. I mean, I love that they got Mike Evans the record. Jalen McMillan is turning into a player. Made 2 huge catches. That was their 3rd-round pick this year. 2 huge catches. So he was – Roma Dunze was the 1, and was he like the 2 in Washington? Or not even the 2? Was he like the –
Wait, what now?
Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Jalen Polk was the other one.
they had 3 of
Those
them,
3
yeah.
guys at
So
Washington.
McMillan was the 3rd, though.
Well, the other 2 were 2-3. I mean, they were catches.
Didn't Polk get picked early in the draft? Earlier?
I don't remember where.
Patriots, G-Man.
Was he Patriots?
Yeah, he was Patriots. He did not have to do much in his rookie season, but Polk's got 31, 316, and 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games, McMillan. 31, 316, and 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games. For the whole season, outside of those 5 games, he had another 150 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, he's become a real force for them with obviously Godwin's out. Yeah, and Bake, that was full Bake. Ugly at times and then electric.
He
By the way,
ran for 60
I was
yards in
gonna
this
say,
game.
his running, and I've only gotten to watch a handful of their games. His running it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
His last 5 games, he's got a game with 40 against Dallas, 68 there.
You know what he's doing different than what he did here, among many things. But rather than escape pocket left and right,
North-south.
he's going up.
Yep.
He's stepping up in the pocket,
Yep.
and then he's taking off.
Yep.
It's just in here he would want to peel
And
out,
get out. Yep.
And now he's stepping up and out.
Yeah, and Mike Evans is awesome, and the
Yeah.
love that his teammates have for him was really, really cool to see. You don't see that a ton anymore.
No.
Broncos 38, Chiefs nothing. Chiefs after sitting on a tarmac for 4 hours and then flying to Denver.
So I
I'm sure
watched
mailed
this.
it
They had, I think, a first down in the first half.
They just ran it. I mean, Wentz just handed it off, and
Yeah, they actually threw it more than they ran it.
did they really?
They only had, I'm pretty sure I have it right. Let's see. He was 10 of 17 passing and was sacked 4 times. Oladukin, whatever his name is, was sacked once on his only drop back and then ran another time. They only had 9 actual runs in the game. So they threw it almost 3-1. They just never had the
They just
ball.
never had the ball.
Never had. I bet the time possession could have been 40-20. 41-18. Time possession was 41,
God.
49 to 18, 11.
It's a hell of a calculated risk to not play anybody for almost 30 days.
Do you know how many total yards they had?
Correct.
Do you know how many total yards the Chiefs had?
No.
98.
Jeez.
98 yards. They ran 33 plays to 72 for the Broncos. It was just a complete – they didn't even turn it over.
No.
It was just a complete beatdown. They were 1 of 9 on third downs. They actually – Wentz was trying to throw – Denver's D is really good. Also, somebody needs to step in. These are the uniforms. That is the field logo at the center of the field.
Yes.
All of it. Enough. They are.
Stop it.
There should be nothing else. Nothing. It's perfect.
That's it.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
You and I need to
like
be.
horse faces.
You and I need to be. Well, the other one actually, a lot of people thought was modeled after him. I think more Mecklenburg when I think of these.
Yes.
But
God,
we need to be like the uniform. Like let's volunteer our services. If you're a team and you're trying to make a decision at the last minute on uniform choices, give us a call, fly us in, nominal
Help us
fee.
help you.
We'll come in and say, all right, you got some new age stuff. Let's have that be the one-off, and let's wear these all the time.
All the time.
Atlanta, let's have that be the one-off.
The Jeff
let's wear
George.
this.
The Jeff
Jeff
Georges.
Georges all the time. See what I did
Or
there
the
for you?
Deion
Because I want you
Sanders.
to be
Thank
on my side with this thing.
We're totally
and
we're in lockstep.
Like that's what you do.
It's not hard.
Those are beautiful.
Old Seattle Seahawks?
Yes. This, and then now this is your one-off.
Yes.
Less of the one that people like less, more of the one that they like more.
Right.
all right, we're up
Less
against it.
and more.
I got to get to the Hoff.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Chargers
Hofstradamus.
34,
Just save some of
Raiders
these. Save
20,
some. We've got-
Seahawks
give it.
30.
Just save the rest of them. We got all week.
It's true, we do.
We don't have
No,
we don't have
I'm not
meet
going to
the
spend all week.
we don't have meet
recapping
the
week
opponents.
18.
We
no
don't
one
have
cares.
We don't have
No one
coordinator
cares.
pressers.
Which of these was most interesting to you of these games?
Minnesota, Detroit.
Yeah, for sure.
was a
Also
beating.
Rams.
Yes.
Rams saying we're good
Stupefying.
is wild to me. It's absolutely wild.
Miami, what's going on there? It's crazy.
All right. Hoff, his half hour rather, is coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, the provider of copiers and document services for your Cleveland Browns. They'll tackle any size office. 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. It is time for the Joe Thomas Hoff hour of the program. The Hoff joins for the next 30 on the Twisted Tea Hotline. Brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. How you doing, Hoff? The kids back in school?
I'm doing great. Yes, thankfully the kids are finally back at school after what seemed like 200 years of them being in my space. Finally they're away so I can get some work done.
So you guys had the Christmas holiday, then New Year's Eve, and by the looks of your Instagram, it looks like you skied a little.
Yeah, we actually went out to Utah, did a little skiing with the family. Met up with Colt McCoy and his family and kids, and Evan Moore, another tight end from the Browns back in the day, and all the kids got out on the slopes. We had great weather, some snow. It was all pure joy.
I loved it. Hoff even called in this program from the slopes themselves.
From the slopes?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, he was talking about the après ski. I gave one of my you weren't here for this, so I gave one of my favorite lines. So, Hoff, you know my buddy Kenny Classman who got the 73 hat for you from Olympia Fields?
Yep.
Kenny. So he calls me on Sunday morning, I'm getting ready, or Saturday morning, I'm getting ready for the game, and he calls me, goes, I was just listening to the show from earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And he said, you said something that I thought was the funniest thing that I had heard, and he's like, I had to call you because I loved it so much. So Hoff was in Park City on the slopes.
Yeah.
And I said, normally he's the Hoff Joe Thomas, but today on the slopes, he's the Hoff Joe Tomba.
Oh, baby. Alberto Tomba.
Tomba. So my boy Kenny was loving that. So I just, the Hoff, Joe Tomba. And I know you
I love
have
it.
a great
Of
appreciation
course, yeah.
Hoff, after we talked, did you look him up? Did you see that he is a man that is worthy of being mentioned in the same breath with greatness like you? Let's go.
Yes, I did have to look it up, but now that I did, I really appreciate you making those parallels because he's somebody that I could really aspire to be, model your life after.
Peak Tomba.
Well, I'll just say this, Hoff.
Was maybe as peak as it gets.
Once you've Googled Alberto Tomba, now Google Katarina Witt and understand that at the peak of his powers and the peak of hers, that's what he did. So
they were united.
It's an even bigger compliment than even you realize. So.
Yes. He's a legend.
Well, I didn't have to Google her. I knew that one.
That one speaks for itself.
Glorious.
Oh, plus a German legend. He's a German. So there's a lot there. Yeah, very good. All right. Look, it is done. It is 3-14. You've been a part of these, obviously. From the standpoint of, I want you to put us into the mind of the pillars of this operation. The Myles Garretts. You were that guy. You were the first ballot Hoff guy. Myles is the first ballot Hoff guy. Joel Bitonio. Guys like that. And you finish a season like it. How do they process it? How did you process it? And what is the end of the year like when it goes the way that it did this year?
Well, I think one of the things all those guys are going to try to do is get away, right? Get your mind away, get your body away, get out of Berea, get out of Cleveland, and give yourself at least a month just to kind of reset and to get an opportunity to just think about the season, but not be so intense and have it on your mind and on your emotions every single day. Because if you don't give yourself that amount of time, right, it's just going to fester. It's like a wound. And I think about the comments that Tyreek Hill made yesterday in Miami, like, I'm out of here. I don't want to be part of this. Because if you're given a microphone or you're asked to make a decision right after the season's over, I think we know what everybody feels, just the same way the fans do. Like, nobody feels good about what happened this year. Nobody is happy. Everybody's just ready for it to be done with so they can think about something else and have some time to put some space between the end of the season and any decisions that they need to make. And then, after a month, whether you're a guy that's getting up there in age and thinking about maybe retiring, or like Myles is saying towards the end of the season, like, hey, I only want to be part of this thing if it's not a rebuild, if we're trying to win a championship next season. And I think then at that point, after you give yourself about a month, then you have those serious conversations with whoever you need to in the building. You can start getting your mind and maybe your body back into the building and start thinking about next season now that you've cleaned the slate in your brain.
Hoff, and we're going to get some of the big comments from Andrew Berry, but some of the comments that came out of the locker room from Joel Bitonio as well as Jack Conklin, so that's a couple of all pros there on your offensive line, were that they did not seem to care much for this spread that the Browns began to run, and that they were certainly interested in going back to the wide zone basics and Conklin went so far as to say, we lacked an identity and we need to go back to doing the things that we were all brought here to do. What are, from an offensive lineman's perspective, what are the big differences in terms of the spread versus running that wide zone scheme and the pin pulls? Joel said, I think I pulled 8 times this year. I was used to pulling 8 times a game. What are the differences in running those two from an offensive lineman's perspective, the talents and the skills that are needed? And what did you think of, Jack saying we need to get back to what we do and have that identity?
Yeah, well, it's easy to understand why they like that, because those two guys right there, Joel and Jack, are two of the best in the league over the last several decades at running the outside zone, right? Big, athletic, they can move guys, they can get on those train tracks. And then when you're talking pin pull stuff, really that's kind of like outside zone, but with more of a defined cut, where it's going to be outside. You're definitely trying to spread the defense and get outside of them, get around them. And I think really the big difference when you're running outside zone and pin pull stuff versus the spread is that you are trying to stretch that defense from sideline to sideline when you're running outside zone or pin pull. And with outside zone specifically, the ball can run anywhere, and it makes it tough on a defense. It puts the pressure on them. You put them in conflict, especially when you pair that and you marry it with the play action pass, because now you've got a linebacker or a safety who's responsible for a gap in the run game, but also potentially part of the field when you're in zone coverage. So I think it puts a lot of pressure on a defense. And I think it does what this offensive line is best at, which is we got big guys that can run. We want them to stretch that defense from sideline to sideline. And I think, especially with the results, right? Hey, maybe it's different if you're sitting here at 13-4 instead of 3-14 or whatever the math is. Haven't done any math in a while, but if you're sitting there with it flipped and you're playing for an offense that was good, maybe they have a different perspective and they're willing to do something that they're not quite as good at. But I think it's pretty obvious, especially with Stefanski making the move, removing offensive line coach and getting rid of the offensive coordinator, that it's probably most likely that when he does hire an offensive coordinator, it's going to be somebody that really sees the game the way he does with that outside zone pin pull stuff, which is what we'd seen in the years previous with Kevin Stefanski.
And that comes back to, you mentioned the Andy Dickerson and Ken Dorsey and those two changes that were made on Kevin's staff, and now back, we assume, we don't know, we assume back to everything that this operation was built on and what Kevin's, honestly, career has been built on, the wide zone and all of the stuff that comes with that, with the play action and all of those things. So you picked number 2 in this draft. There's a lot of different ways that you can go here. You see now it's easier for rookie quarterbacks than ever to come in and have an impact right away and get them up to speed quickly. How much, when you're sitting here at 2, how much do you have to factor playing in that system versus, because what we did this year is we brought in Ken to try to get the most out of Deshaun. So this is going to be a remade quarterback room, Hoff. If you were running this operation, how would you remake it?
Well, I think because of the salary cap situation, the quarterback that you can get that plays the best quarterback is who you're going to tailor your offense to. I think if you do go and get a veteran guy like, let's say, a Kirk Cousins, it's pretty easy, right? That's this offensive system he's been in his entire career and he's had the most success with. So that would be natural. I think the only question is if you did get a quarterback who was more of a Deshaun Watson shotgun type, and he was really your best or your only option to play that position, then you'd have to have some deep conversations about, hey, do you think we should just stick with the outside zone? And is it something where for 1 year we think we can teach this quarterback this scheme, we can scheme it up for him, we can do a good job of, giving him everything he can possibly have to get the most out of himself, and then knowing that, down the line in a couple of years there'll be a different quarterback playing that and we want to not just keep changing systems all the time. Or is it a situation where you only want to take a quarterback that would fit into that system as a young player that you have an opportunity to develop? And, I think young guys, they have much more of an opportunity because of the length of their career to be able to come into a system they've never been, learn it, and then stick with it for a while. And the reason I say that is because, Sam Darnold is in Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy's the backup. We don't know what's going to happen there. But there's potentially, with the number 2 pick especially, if there's a team that has a young quarterback that has ability, but they really want to get rid of him because he's a great resource and an asset, I think the Browns take a long, hard look at that and say, hey, we have this number 2 pick. We've got some draft capital that if we wanted to make a move and pick up a young quarterback that could be our guy of the future, because especially it would fit into our salary cap situation, that might be somebody we want to do. But I think really out of all the guys that we've talked about and thought about, I think all of them would potentially fit, whether being young and ability to grow into it and learn that outside zone play action, or old guy. For the most part, all of those guys have been in that system. So I think we're safe no matter what direction we go at quarterback.
That's the biggest question, period.
Yeah,
that's it, right? That's everything that this organization has to be focused on. And in light of the news that we heard from Andrew Berry yesterday, Hoff, what was kind of your reaction to that? That, we heard Deshaun Watson has had a setback with his Achilles, and you have to wonder if he would even be around at all or available at all in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know what setback means just yet, because at least I haven't heard any reports. I'm not in Berea right now. However, I think the timeline for an Achilles is usually about a year at baseline.
Yep.
And that was going to put him ready towards the end of the season as it was. And so if there was any type of setback, even if it was only a few weeks, I mean, that puts you right at the end of the season. And is it really realistic to say, hey, we're going to have this quarterback who hasn't played much in the last few years anyway, and when he's played, it's been up and down, to have him come in, knock the rust off of not playing, and knock the rust off of an injury that's been pretty significant when you look at the two guys that were coming back from it last year, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, didn't play their best football. I think it's pretty safe to say that he probably won't be under center at all for the Browns next season.
Yeah, and that's, boy, there's just so many things. I'll tell you, this number 2 pick, though, Hoff, there's a jolt of energy that comes with it for the franchise. I mean, for Z and I, at least, not speaking for the franchise, I'm sure for them too. Like, this is an incredible asset that you now have at your disposal. It's a lifeboat. You mentioned the cap issues; those are very real. But now all of a sudden, you can add premium players at the top of the first round, the top of the second round, top of the third round. You have a second, third round pick. You can get an incredible influx of talent here. One of the other things we got to sort out other than that is just kind of where we are on the offensive line. And Joel had some comments toward the end of the season about really taking a step back and what he wants to do going forward. He's played the same amount of years you did, if I'm correct. I believe I have that. You and him obviously very close. I'm not asking you to share any personal conversation or anything like that, but if you go back to your decisions at that time, and obviously you had an injury situation, but what do you weigh when you've accomplished all that you did in yours towards the end? What do you think Joel will weigh as he's in that similar spot?
So I think Joel's probably weighing two big things outside of health. I'm assuming that he feels okay enough. Like, obviously everybody that finishes 11 years in the NFL playing just about every year, you're not going to feel like you're 25 again. So he's got wear and tear. But he's been mostly healthy later on in his career, so I'm just going to assume that he feels healthy enough that he could play again. And then it really comes down to, hey, what's the direction of the franchise? Because I think even though he hasn't said it like Miles did, I don't think he wants to go through another rebuild. Like, he was part of that a bunch of times. And so I think the direction that the franchise takes between January right now and the draft will say a lot about where they think they are. Is this a deeper rebuild, or is this just a reload? And is this, looking at the roster, which is still loaded with a ton of talent, is this a team that, if we do figure out the quarterback position, will we compete for a championship? And I think if that's a yes, then the question for Joel becomes that of personal accomplishment, right? Like, he's sort of on the border of being a guy that would be considered for the Hall of Fame. And obviously the more All-Pros, Pro Bowls that you make, that's your resume as an offensive lineman. And then, of course, if you win a Super Bowl, that helps too. But for him, it's the question about, how good do I feel? How many more years can I play realistically? And what's that number that I need to get to of All-Pros, Pro Bowls, to be able to have a realistic shot of making the Hall of Fame? And so I think Hall of Fame consideration, and then if this team is ready to win a championship next year, I think those are the two things that will be going through his mind in the next couple months as he sort of mulls over what he wants to do next season.
I got to talk with Joel in advance of this game, the last game of this season. And, we talked about coming up next to you and what it meant that you just were always there. That, when he started, he said he didn't think you, Alex Mack, or Mitchell Schwartz had ever missed a snap. Obviously, Alex Mack got hurt his rookie year. But For Joel Bitonio in this season, at this stage of his career, when you see that he played 1,178 snaps, which is more than any player in the National Football League played this year.
Jeez.
I mean, to me, that's just the consummate professional following in your footsteps. It's incredible to me. Incredible. And he had a lot of injuries. He had back injuries. He had the arm. He had a lot of things that could have kept him out of games, and he did not ever. In fact, played more snaps than anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, it's totally remarkable. I mean, a true testament to his durability, his toughness, what type of a team player he is. And how many times did we hear Joel complaining about stuff to the media? I'm sure poor Courtney at home is getting an earful every time he comes home. But, I mean, the misery of going through a season like this is bad enough as a fan. But when you're doing it and you're getting your body decimated with injury, and then you realize, like, at some point in the season that it's hopeless, but you're wanting to be out there for your teammates. To me, that's just everything that you could say about the character of Joel Bitonio, and everything that you'd want out of a leader on the offense, a leader on your offensive line. And I really hope he comes back. I mean, he was playing fantastic football at the end of the season, so I would really love to see him continue to play, continue to help this team win a championship, and continue his quest to be a Hall of Famer.
Huff, what do you think Kevin Stefanski ought to look for in an offensive line coach? I'm hearing through the grapevine there is a hot candidate out of the Munich Ravens operation from a year ago. Potentially could be of some interest. What should he look for?
Well, I guess if there's enough schnitzel and pommes available for me, I might consider it, and maybe some Kolsch beer. But I think he wants to find somebody that has a history running the offense that he envisions, right? So I think it's really important to be able to get an offensive line coach that's going to be your eyes and ears in that offensive line meeting. And so you never have to coach your coach on what you want the offensive line to look like, what you want them to detail up. And you had that with Bill Callahan. I guarantee Kevin Stefanski would talk to Bill, but it wasn't like he had to tell him anything what he needed to do. He gave him the plays, and he said, hey, what do you think about these? And Bill took it and said, great. And then he had a system for everything he wanted to teach to all those guys. And so you want to find an extension of you, an extension of your mind. And obviously finding another Bill Callahan, not so easy.
Yeah.
But, finding somebody along that line that has a long history in the outside, the wide zone scheme, because it is a lot different to coach that. And I had a lot of learning to do when I was in my sixth season. And Kyle Shanahan came in and he brought the scheme in because the techniques are different, the aiming points are different, the coaching points are different. And so I think it's really important to have somebody that you don't have to coach up and teach from the ground up about how to run the outside zone the way Stefanski wants.
How do you balance, as somebody now you're able to reflect back on your career and the difference in Bill Callahan and maybe another coach, and the sense, and the question I'm really asking is, a lot of times you hear, for example, the guy like Bill Callahan, man, he was so hard, practice wasn't fun, all of these things, but then you look and you say, oh, well, you played your best football under Bill Callahan and you got paid more under Bill Callahan and all of those things, versus, oh, well, this guy's a player's coach. He kind of lets us figure it out, what works best for us, but then maybe it's not as good. How do you balance as a player, and what would be your advice to young players is, to me, when I hear players coach, when I hear somebody say that somebody's play, I think that's, as a fan of that team, I get nervous because then it feels like they must be being too easy. It's buddy and all of that. Like, yes, obviously they're the coaches and you'd like to have good relationships, but at the same time, their job is to make you the best that you can be so that you can have the most success and make the most money. So what would your advice be to players, and what's kind of your mindset on that?
So there's an old saying I remember hearing from my college O-line coach, Jim Huber. He always said, there's no fun in offensive line play except when you win. And it's kind of true, right? Like, we're never the guy that's standing in the end zone, catching the touchdown pass. We're never the guy that's getting interviewed after a big win. Like, as an offensive lineman, the joy that we get is putting in the work, being mushrooms, and celebrating as a team, and promoting and providing a platform for those other guys to be stars around you. And so, yeah, it sucks being an offensive lineman. It sucks going to work every day and going out there and smashing skulls against the guy across from you for 3 hours. It's hard to put in the work. We're learning a skill that is not natural. Like, if you're a quarterback or a receiver, you're throwing and catching. You've been doing that since you've been walking in diapers. Since you were a year and a half old, you were tossing that football, you were tossing that ball, you were throwing something at your siblings, maybe at the dinner table. Like, those are natural things, like running. Okay, I'm a receiver. I run and catch. Yes, there's details you have to learn, but it's natural. These are the things that the human body is made to do. Like, as a lineman, I'm shuffling, running backwards, sort of, and then I have to stop on a dime and stop another 300-pound human that's trying to kill my quarterback. These are not things that you can just have in your DNA. You have to practice them over and over again. And it's like a golf swing, right? You have to just repeat it over and over and over again, and it's redundant, it's boring, it hurts, it's painful, it's not fun, but it's the life that you signed up for when you became an offensive lineman. And so the best coaches I've ever been around were the guys that were demanding. They were the ones that said, hey, this is the way we're going to do it, and if you don't want to do it like that, that's fine, we'll get somebody else. And I think those are the best offensive line coaches. Unfortunately, it's not a glory position. It's not a lot of fun going to practice every day, but you got to find the fun in it, in the willingness to do the other things that people aren't willing to do. And you got to find a brotherhood and a camaraderie amongst the misery of every single day that you go to practice and you go to meetings. And if you can't do that, you can't be a great offensive lineman.
We don't know where this is going to go in terms of the offensive coordinator job. Would you like to see Kevin Stefanski return to play calling, Hoff?
I could definitely see it. I think sometimes the play calling role gets a little bit too much attention because really all the work gets done during the week. And once you have your play sheet, there is a little bit of an art to it and a feel about what you're calling, but it's somewhat collaborative on the sideline. And so, we've seen Andy Reid. He's had a bunch of different guys calling plays. Who knows if he's calling plays at certain times. But I think really the bulk of the work gets done during the week, selecting the plays for your situations. And then you're just kind of going down the list on feel, and you're getting input from your players and from your coaches, and you're watching things. So whether he calls the plays or not, I'm okay with it. And I think he's already sort of hinted that the guy that is going to be calling the plays is either going to be him or it's going to be somebody that sees the game in the same way he does. So I don't think it'll be really a big deal about necessarily who's going to call the plays physically in the microphone to the quarterback's headset next year.
As long as they see it through the same eyes. I think Kevin's won Coach of the Year twice doing it. I think he got the job because he did it. I'd like to see him do it. I do think there's something to take. When you were here with Kyle, the guys that are in that, I just think they know how to sequence it so well, and that maybe is more like the feel for the sequencing of when we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this something that looks exactly the same of that, and we're going to pull it out, we're going to hit this. Now we're going to make it look like we're doing the second, but we're actually going back to the first with different personnel groupings, different formations. Is that sequencing, is that something that you could feel when you were on the field, that when you had somebody who was in a good rhythm with the sequencing, that you always kind of had the defense on its toes?
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's an important point. Like, when we had Kyle Shanahan as our offensive coordinator, he was going through that in our Friday and Saturday meetings. Like, hey, we're going to run this play first, and then when they do this, they're going to overplay it, and they're going to open up this, right? So he was explaining that during the week, and if you don't have that feel as an offensive coordinator, probably shouldn't be an offensive coordinator. Now, maybe there's nobody that Kevin can hire that has that feel and that sequencing the way he does, and so then he should do it, absolutely. And then your offensive coordinator at that point just becomes somebody who's sort of helping carry the water a little bit during the week and filling in where there's some gaps and, the amount of work that has to get done. And maybe that guy specializes a little bit more in coaching quarterbacks. Then I would expect Kevin to definitely absolutely do the game day play calling role. But I would hope that there's somebody out there that has a great feel for sequencing and setup and the art to calling plays on offense. Otherwise, I would assume that then Kevin would want that role. He's only going to put somebody in that role of calling the plays on Sundays if they're going to see the game the exact way that he does.
It's interesting you guys bring up Kyle, and we were thinking about this because when Todd Monken was here, Z and I were like, wow, that guy's brilliant. And we knew he'd be brilliant at Georgia. You knew he'd be brilliant with the Ravens. He has been. When you were with Kyle, Hoff, did you know that he was going to be capable of what he's been?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could see it from his very first meeting, the way he encourages guys and empowers guys to, really understand how good you can be. And I always thought he was the best motivator I ever had, and it wasn't because he gave the world's greatest rah-rah speeches. I mean, he could get you motivated, but the way he got you motivated was empowering you to believe that, hey, we are set up with a better scheme and better play calling than the guy across from me, and if I just do my job, do what I'm supposed to do, we're going to roll these dudes. And the way you get excited in the NFL is with wins, success, being able to get the next contract, being able to celebrate with your teammates. Like, those are all the things that I think he fostered as an offensive coordinator. And it was really fun because, I mean, he opened my eyes specifically up to that whole way of doing things with the outside zone and the play action, and seeing how there's a marriage between what we do in the run game and how it looks to a defense when we now play action pass. So I think up until that point, I'd never really seen that a play-action passing game can look just like your running game. And so it got us excited to go to every game, and he didn't have to raise his voice one time. Just showing us how much better and more well-prepared we were going to be to attack a defense, that's all the motivation that we needed. And so I think guys that have that, you can just see and you can feel it when you're in those meetings.
So is that one of the first times that you experienced, for example, you watch some of the play action passing concepts and you'll full on have the pullers, which are just supposed to be the eye candy to distract the linebackers and make them believe that it's a run? That was kind of, Kyle introduced some of those types of things to you on that level, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. And it was great. And it was a philosophical shift. So up until that point, I'd had, 4 or 5 offensive coordinators, and they all ran somewhat similar offenses, pro style, Norv Turner, throw the ball down the field, Don Coryell type stuff. But the onus on protection was always on the offensive line. So they would always say, all right, this is a play action, we're running power pass, or we're running, waggle pass, some version of like play action zone. But if they blitz here, or if this linebacker walks up, screw the fake, just block them. Because they were so afraid of getting the quarterback hit that it was always on us. Whereas Kyle came in and goes, I don't care what they're doing. It's up to the quarterback to understand that, hey, if the corner's coming and it's hot, like, that's on him. Or maybe the running back can pick it up. But we have to sell it, make it look, sound, feel like the run. And then that's what's going to open things up. And you know what? If they get us once in a game and they hit our quarterback because we're selling the run and we're not as worried about protection in the first 2 seconds of the play, like, that's okay. Put that on me. And that was a philosophical change that I'd never heard before. Yeah. But it makes a difference of, does it actually look like the run, or does an offensive lineman always have that get-out-of-jail-free card? Well, the linebacker started creeping, so I didn't run my fake. I didn't act like I was double-teaming with the defense, the offensive tackle and the defensive end, because I was worried about the run-through, which is what it always ended up being. That's why it never looked like the run. But I think to be able to unlock the potential of play-action pass down the field, you have to make it look like the run, and you have to be willing to have the quarterback get a hit occasionally. But as you guys have seen, like, when those offenses are cooking, it looks so much like the run that even when you do play-action pass, those linebackers are running sideways so fast.
Oh, yeah.
They're not even seeing the quarterback pulling the football.
And that's how guys are so open in the middle of the field.
And that's why it takes such a cerebral quarterback to do it.
Yes.
You have to
see it.
You have to see it.
Process it.
Hoff, who is your non-Myles Garrett MVP for this season for your Cleveland Browns?
Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
That is.
What is your – we will start the wild card round this week. What is your Super Bowl right now, and who do you have winning it as we kick this thing off?
Detroit and Buffalo in my Super Bowl, and I've got Buffalo winning it.
Wow. That would be
the ultimate. That's the dream Super Bowl for me this year.
That would be couches upon couches on fire.
Oh yeah.
If that's Super Bowl. If it's Buffalo and Detroit, either way,
new winner, historic, legendary fan bases. Oh, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I'm trying to will to happen.
Yeah, I'd love to see that one too.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, I'd like to see Detroit win. I'll be there. I've got some NFL duties at the Super Bowl.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Colleen doing the in-stadium hosting. I'm looking forward to that. And as a longtime Browns fan, former player, to see two teams that have never been there, never won it. Sorry, they've been there. They haven't won it. would be really special. I'd be cheering for Detroit in that situation. I love Dan Campbell. I love everything that they stand for. But to me, I think that's the dream Super Bowl. That's what the NFL wants. That's what this guy over here that's sitting in skid loader in Wisconsin wants.
Yes.
Oh, skid loader. What work do you have ahead of you, Chop? There, Hoff.
Yeah, so we're removing some cedars from our pasture. As you know, they suck up a lot of water in the soil. Can't have them, so
Yeah.
got the chainsaw and the skid loader out, grinding them babies up, getting some
baby.
winter work done, getting ahead of schedule here.
I love when you're putting in the good work, Hoff. That's
Unbelievable.
beautiful. All right, buddy. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for having me on.
That is the Joe Thomas Hoff hour of the program.
See what you did there.
Yep. Howard Hanna, the official real estate provider, your Cleveland Browns exclusive buyer agent, there to help you navigate the field, save time and money, and score that winning touchdown, a new home. Win big with your leader in real estate. Visit howardhanna.com/go Browns today. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. When a medical mistake caused your injury, call the medical malpractice attorneys at 1-800-ELK Ohio. Elk & Oak's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. It's time for your Microsoft Minute, powered by Microsoft Surface, powering a better game. And for the final thoughts on the season finale, here is Dr. Z.
Well, not a whole lot positive happened out there, but you got to tip your cap to a couple of people, certainly on the Browns offense. And the first would be, they're going to have the letter J in common. How about that? A little teaser for you.
There you go.
Joel Bitonio. Joel Bitonio played more snaps than anyone on offense in the NFL this year. I actually just looked up. There were two defenders on the Carolina Panthers who actually played over 1,200 snaps apiece this year. But as far as offense goes, Joel Bitonio, he played the most and played with great aplomb, and kudos to him. Number 2, Double J, Jerry Jeudy. 6 catches, sets the new franchise mark. 6 for 63 in this game. Finishes 90 catches, 1,229 yards. That's 6th most in the NFL this season. And 4 touchdowns, career highs in catches and yards for Jerry Jeudy. Another J, Jordan Akins. Jordan Akins actually, in some of the games where he had to step in for David Njoku and actually got some good targets. In this one, 8 targets. He had 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Played well. He's much more of a move tight end than he is a blocking tight end, but good job from him there. And then the final one, Jacob Kibodi. Jacob Kibodi had about a 30-year college career. I kid, but not really. Out of Louisiana Lafayette. We hadn't seen him. This was his NFL debut. And he did a pretty darn good job. 5 carries for 24 yards, 1 catch for 15 yards. That had to be a cool thrill for him. Caught a pass, did great. And then the other guy, this is not a J, but he's BB, Brendan Bates, who's another guy making his NFL debut. And while he did not have the opportunity to necessarily catch a pass, he looked pretty good on the kick returns. I'm sorry, Caden Davis, that's what I meant. Caden Davis. Brendan Bates was the tight end. Caden Davis, he had 3 catches for 3 returns for 107 yards, 35 a return at a long of 40. So a couple guys that, we're just trying to get some action out there. Got some action and did good. And hopefully, for guys like that, it gives them an opportunity to maybe, stay on the practice squad, get into training camps, and get another crack at living out their dreams.
And that is your Microsoft Minute. It's powered by Microsoft Surface, powering a better game. I did a couple of things I saw just from everything that happened yesterday in the NFL. I did find this one funny. I think we have this, Kevin, from around the sports world. Rex Ryan on how he would handle Aaron Rodgers if he were the head coach, hired as the head coach of the Jets, a job that he has interviewed for. Here's Rex Ryan.
Clearly, when you have a guy that doesn't show up for mandatory minicamp, and by the way, is your quarterback coming off an injury, I think that's an absolutely ridiculous message you sent to the team. If he comes back, things would be different. If he's back, it ain't going to be the country club, show up whenever the hell you want to show up. That ain't going to happen. So I'll just leave it at that.
He's not wrong.
He's not. But the idea that if he would have been the coach of the Jets when Aaron Rodgers was acquired, that he would have taken this tone with him is utter nonsense.
Agreed.
It's very easy to say this now when there's clearly going to be
a divorce
between the Jets and Rodgers, and you don't have to deal with it.
Yep.
So to act as if you would behave in a way different than Robert Saleh did is utter nonsense.
Robert Saleh got a pretty raw deal.
Yeah, he got a raw deal. I don't even think Rodgers wanted Saleh gone, honestly. If you read that, there was that story right around when it all happened about how, because Woody Johnson, remember the Rossini story? Woody Johnson wanted him to bench Rodgers, and Saleh's like, we're not benching him. And that's what led to it. Like, there was a lot of animosity between Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers that was out there this
because
year.
of obvious reasons that are not football related.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible when in an end of the year press conference, an owner of an NFL team, in this case Woody Johnson, has to make a statement that his teenage son is actually not involved in football decisions. That he has to say that.
That was said out loud.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Like yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever he spoke, yes.
Yeah.
That was said out loud. Because of the Rossini story, which certainly made it seem like perhaps he
It was all about Madden ratings, remember?
did have something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. I don't know. That job.
Who takes that job?
I think that's, of the jobs that are open,
Who takes that job?
that one, Vegas.
Is Vegas open?
Oh, no, I guess it's not yet. New Orleans isn't. tough spot too. You saw Derek Carr. He says he's not he's taking all of his money. He's no discount on everything. I'm getting all of my 40 is coming my way. So there's New Orleans, Jets. Those are two at the bottom. I think all the rest you can find.
It's all
and
about
some of them are really good. I think Patriots is a really good job right now, and I think the Bears, despite some of the organizational stuff, I think that's a decent job too. But the Patriots and the Jaguars jobs are great.
Jags is
The only thing there is you got to deal with
electric.
Balky, who they have a lot of loyalty to.
If you are a fan of the Funk Man or Super Dave Osborne in general, I feel like you'd find a way to get along with Balky because he sounds just like him. Just close your eyes and pretend you're talking Super Dave.
There's a marathon on curb running last night. Pure joy when I stumbled in that after the Montana State loss. It was just the pick-me-up I needed.
Where'd you jump in? What season?
I'll tell you in a second. Okay. Boost your game day this season with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet at $25 or more. You get $150 back in bonus bets. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. Presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The first time ever, witness Inter Miami take on 2023 MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew, Huntington Bank Field. It's April 19th. Learn more and sign up for pre-sale access by visiting huntingtonbankfield.com/crew versus Miami.
Oh, baby.
We've got tomorrow is the first Friday, and then football smorgasbord all the way till next Monday night. Games that count every single day.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of tonight, tomorrow night, take a little bit of a football vacation, and then you're back in.
Can't wait to guess the lines. We're rolling, dude. We are rolling. We hit the rarefied air of you and I combined 70 over.
Oh, come on. Let's go. Let's go.
Just beautiful.
Beautiful job out of us.
15.
All right, next level's coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.